Welcome to another OG55 slash Citrico Central Live. This is a multi-channel, first of its kind. Now, we have never done a multi-channel with George the Italiano, Citrico Central. Today is the day, and it's a very special multi-channel stream because we are reacting to our good friend, Hey Brickey. He dropped a banger of a video the other day. We're going to watch this video live on both channels, react to it. Up next on OG55 and Citrico Central, here we go. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55 Live. I'm joined by the founder, the chief executive officer of Citrico Central, George the Italiano. How are you, sir?
Doing good, and thank you all for joining. Also, Citrico Central Live, greatly appreciate it. This is actually really weird because I get a notification every time that I go live, and then I also get a notification every time that you go live. But they're always just, it's like your video or my video. So now I got like two notifications that went off at the same time. It was like bonkers.
It's crazy for the same video. It's wild, you know? Yes. But yeah, where can everybody find you? For people watching OG55, where can everybody find you on social media?
Absolutely. You can find me, you can find me on OG55 and you can also find me on my own channel right now, which is Citrico Central. We're basically both channels where OG55, we do a lot of in-studio kind of stuff. Citrico Central, I'm on location at the parks, Disney, Universal, doing a lot of kind of different activities and covering breaking news, so it's always a good time. But also, too, this is a first for us because we've done many reaction videos to our content friends, but especially Brickies. But this is the first time we're doing it live with all of you.
I love it. I love it. And we have David in the house. Good to see you, David. He's saying, "Hey, George."
What's up?
We got your lovely fiance, Abigail, in the house. We also have the lovely Mademoiselle Papel in the house. Oh, where can everybody find you, George? Oh, yeah, you already did that. Never mind. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. Let's rock and roll. We got this another fantastic video from Hey Brickey. Did Anaheim just reveal Disney's future theme park plans? I will be linking Brickey's information in the description down below. Make sure if you are not subscribed to him, you do so. If you're a Disney fan, if you're a theme park nerd, he is absolutely incredible. There's a reason why we react to him so much here on the channel. Just amazing, amazing content. But George, are you ready to rock and roll, buddy?
Yes, definitely. But really quick, we actually got two more people that came in, Storybooks Sorceress and Mr. Tech Bear.
There they are. All right, here we go. Let's rock and roll. Let's party.
Anaheim is officially studying an aerial gondola system. One of those proposed locations is Disneyland. On paper, it looks like a transit plan for the 2028 Summer Olympics. But I dug a little deeper and it starts to feel like Anaheim and Disney are working together on something much bigger. Today, I'll show you how this idea went from speculation to city documents and what all of this could mean for Disneyland's third theme.
So we just have to clarify to everybody, the big project that Brickey is talking about is a massive in-and-out that's going right in the dead center between the Disneyland Resort and all the Anaheim Center attractions.
we could only wish. We could only wish. That would be awesome. Actually, it'd be really cool if they built Westcott with a giant in-and-out in the middle of it as a centerpiece, you know?
There you go.
That would be amazing. You can't get more West Coast than that.
Park. Brickey here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's the best way to keep up with Disneyland's past so we can better understand its future. And I think what we'll learn today is Anaheim's moves maybe puts together some of the predictions we've been following on this channel. After all, this is a topic that I started covering in 2023 when I was predicting the gondolas would be a part of Disneyland Forward. And here we are, 2 years later, and there's an indication that that dream might become a reality. Let's go. I'm so excited that you showed up today. City records obtained through public requests show planners are studying a line that would stretch along Catella, tying together the Honda Center Angel Stadium, Garden Walk, the Convention Center, and the Disneyland Resort. The inspiration for all of this seems to be the 2028 Summer Olympics, with Honda Center set to host indoor volleyball. Some people doubt a system like this could be ready in just 2.5 years, and maybe they're right. But that's not the point. The important takeaway is that the exact conversation we've been having here is now happening with the people who can actually make it real. And back in 2000.
And he's absolutely correct. You know, Brickey's been on the forefront of this Disneyland Forward thing. I mean, he's been really pumping out a lot of great content in regards to this, right? The resort expansion. We've done a lot of content on the expansion, Disneyland Forward, the future of this resort. But one of the big question marks that we've seen with this whole thing, with Disneyland Forward and a potential third gate going into the Toy Story lot, is how is Disney going to get people from the main resort to this new third park? You know, we've talked about, are they going to adopt maybe like a Universal Epic Universe kind of plan with buses? Are they going to do a people mover kind of thing? Are they going to do maybe just like an elevated tram, a skyway? So it's very interesting now that the city of Anaheim is really looking into, you know, a Skyliner kind of mode of transportation, and just really kind of, you know, diving into what options they have for this, the timing, and he gets into it. I've seen this video already, you know, but he gets into it and he does a great job really breaking this down. But I mean, this is not coincidental, y'all. I mean, the timing, I get it, the 2028 Olympics, but there's, like Brickey's saying, there is way more to this than the Olympics.
Well, and also too, really quick, that with all this being discussed, we're already kind of seeing movements made by the city of Anaheim, which then declares, are we going to end up hearing about a third gate much sooner than what they could be planning for the Simba lot? I know that sounds far-fetched. It may seem like, you know what, why not just fill up the Simba lot first before moving into the Toy Story lot? But here's the thing, though. That, I think, is what the caveat is, because they don't want to fill up the Simba lot yet all the way. You fill that whole thing up, DCA is done. Like, it's completed. Then you're going to have to remove stuff to replace and everything. And with everything that's going on right now with DCA, you have Avengers Campus expanding, you have the Coco family boat ride, you have Pandora coming. Are they really, and actually you brought this to my attention, so I'm going to give the credit to you when you asked me this, was after all this is said and done and DCA is kind of covered for right now, are they going to do more DCA after that? I don't think so. That's just my opinion. But
right. No, absolutely. And you said too, George, I mean, you bring up a great point, like you said, where, you know, is a third park coming sooner rather than later? And it may sound far-fetched, but is it really far-fetched? Here's the thing. Disney is full of surprises. Would we have thought, if I would have told you a decade ago that we were going to get a re-theme of Splash Mountain, would you have believed me? Probably not. If I would have told you a decade ago, we're going to get a version of Pandora in DCA of all parks, would you believe me? Probably not. You probably think, oh man, OG's really losing it. Pandora and DCA, right? So Disney has a knack for sort of throwing these curveballs. So when we say that a third park is probably sooner than we all think, I mean, maybe that will happen, maybe it won't happen, but it's not that far-fetched. We've seen Disney do some pretty wild stuff that has surprised the fan base many, many times. Is this one of those things? We'll see.
23, I was already pointing at this possibility. Somewhere in here would be a station that would drop us off, or maybe it's on this side of the road. Now about that budget. The figure tossed around is about 37 million. That sounds nice on paper, but let's be realistic. A project like this is far more likely to land somewhere between 125 million and 180 million on the low end. 200 to 350 million as a more realistic mid-range, and potentially 400 million or more if land, utilities, and complex stations start to drive up costs. And side note, little fun fact, every gondola system I researched to make this video, they all had one thing in common. they went over budget.
That is pretty funny. Now, I wonder how much that factors into Anaheim's decision, though, right? Because if Brickey was able to notice that, you know, with his research, I'm sure the city of Anaheim and the officials are probably also noticing that these kind of gondola systems do tend to go over budget. Does the city necessarily want to get into that? I'm not really sure. But one of the critiques I have about the gondola system in general, and we talked about this on a video, George and I, pretty recently, here on OG55, where, you know, there is a little bit of a barrier to entry with the gondola system. It's not everyone's cup of tea, let's say, to be in a steel box dangling on a wire over Catella or over Harbor Boulevard, right? So there is an element of, you know, there's people that maybe are afraid of heights, which is pretty common. There's people who are claustrophobic, like myself. This is not a system that I feel is like an everybody kind of system, like a bus or even like an elevated people mover system, right? So that is something that I think Anaheim does need to look into, because, you know, you want to move as many people as possible, but, you know, this does have a little bit of an edge to it where maybe not everyone feels 100% comfortable. Now, I don't know. I'm not privy to the numbers in Orlando with the Skyliner. Maybe it moves a lot of people, and maybe that element of the fear factor doesn't really come into play. So this is just me, OG, kind of spitballing here. But I am kind of curious about that, because I do feel like this is sort of a thing that, like, not everybody is going to feel 100% comfortable riding. So I don't know.
Yeah. And Shane Narani says, someone, I think what they're trying to say, someone has told Offhand Disney, no, it is not feasible for Anaheim to do a people mover between all these areas.
Well, I don't know if it's not feasible, Shane. I mean, I think it is feasible. I mean, look, if you can do a gondola, here's the thing. If you can do a gondola system, I don't know why you couldn't do a people mover. Right now, I don't know. Maybe financially is what you're talking about, because maybe financially a people mover would be way more expensive. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, whether you have giant towers holding up a wire or pillars holding up a people mover track, I don't know why a people mover would be so much less possible than the Skyliner. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're both essentially the same thing. They're basically just a bunch of pillars holding up, whether it's a wire or whether it's a platform. So I don't know. I feel like it is possible, Shane. I just don't know financially, though. Is Anaheim really going to want to get into a people mover? I think it would be more expensive, you know, but I do think more people would be willing to get on a people mover than a metal box dangling over Harbor Boulevard, in my opinion. But I don't know. We'll see.
And Mademoiselle says, I'd be concerned as a motorist and a gondola falling on my car. No, I'm not paranoid.
I mean, here's the thing, Mademoiselle. I'm an overthinker. I think about stuff like that, though. You know, like yeah. I mean, that would be terrible headlines. You know what I'm saying? But I think those accidents are pretty rare. But one thing that does happen pretty often, though, we've seen it in Florida, is these gondolas breaking down and people are stuck in those things in the heat, and that's a problem too. So this thing does have its challenges, to say the least. I'm excited about the idea of them tossing ideas around and kind of trying to figure this transportation thing out and what it means for a third gate, but I'm not 100% sold on the gondola system, if that makes sense.
And that's the important part. The idea has moved from speculation into actual city planning documents. But this leads to a bigger question. Why include Disneyland at all? Which instantly made me wonder, what does the city of Anaheim get out of making that connection? If you haven't been following along, Anaheim's other big project is called OC Vibe. This is a massive entertainment district being built around the Honda Center. Restaurants, retail, and performing arts center, even new housing. It's designed to make the area around the Ducks' home arena feel more like LA Live in downtown LA, a destination all on its own. The gondola route Anaheim is studying would tie that new district directly into the rest of the city's attractions. Picture this, starting at OC Vibe and the Honda Center, continuing over to Angel Stadium, crossing over the 5, landing at Garden Walk, and connecting to Disneyland. And finally, the convention center. That's the proposed loop in its most ambitious form. The cheapest and simplest version of this idea would be to run the entire line as one continuous loop. You'd get on any station, ride past every stop with the option to exit. If you stayed on, you'd eventually circle back to where you started your journey. That's the most cost-effective setup, and it keeps the system continuously moving, much like a Disneyland Omnimover. Where things get very expensive is when you introduce choices. Imagine if you rode the Catella line all the way down to Harbor and the system forced you to get off at the end, then you would have to make the decision whether to head north towards Disneyland or south toward the convention center. That's when you need larger stations, more staff, and more time for passengers to unload and reload. Every branching point that pops up slows the entire system down. It eats up valuable real estate and drives costs higher with more staffing required at each one of these options. But where is that real estate in this very crowded intersection? Are we going to have to do it up in the air? I think that's really the only play. Imagine up here in the sky, gondolas coming and going, letting people decide their fate. I'm not predicting which way Anaheim will choose, but it's worth understanding there are really two different ways that this could work, because this isn't just about moving tourists faster. It's about redistributing Anaheim's visitors and their spending across multiple districts. And I also believe to get people to stay a little bit longer and come a little more often. More options, more opportunities, more ways to spend. Anaheim doesn't want everyone's money going into Disney's front gate. And they want some of it landing in OC Vibe and at the convention center. And then strangely, at Garden Walk, one of these kids isn't like the other. Still, the bigger picture is clear. Anaheim is trying to...
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting, right? A stop at Garden Walk, and that's where the third park, and he touches upon all this, but I mean, that's where the third park really comes into play here, because that's a dying shopping center. A gondola stop there is strategic, and I want to clarify, he does mention this later on, but it's a strategic spot because that's right next to the Toy Story lot, which is where eventually the Westcott's can be built, right? That's the third park. So they want it there because Anaheim knows that's the game plan eventually. But what say you, George? What are your thoughts on the whole Garden Walk element of this? Oh, you're on mute, brother.
Sorry. Before Garden Walk, I just have to say this really does seem like the bigger plan that that Disney and Anaheim are kind of like coming to an agreement, like finally, because I mean, the two of them have been butting heads for decades, you know, so now that, you know, everyone is kind of on the same wavelength, so to speak, of, you know, the city of Anaheim would help Disney, Disney would help Anaheim. And as Brickey had just mentioned, it gets people to stay longer and also to revisit. And we're kind of already seeing that now before any of this Disneyland Forward is actually takes full effect, because we're starting to see a lot of out of state visitors internationally that are coming for visits, whether it's at Disneyland, whether it's at Universal, even prior to the 2028 Olympics. So it's already starting to show a trickle effect that this strategy is working. So you put like a transportation system that locks into all these main areas. I mean, that's definitely going to help for business for both Disney and the city of Anaheim. And then again, before going to the Garden Walk, for Lucas, can you imagine the D23 Expo hogging over gondolas from Honda to Anaheim and hotels? And then he continued, that bus, shuttle, and cabs were absolute hell last year. And honestly, this is why OG and I decided to just do an Uber, like straight from our hotel, leave the convention area, because even with this hypothetical Skyliner, when it comes to D23, because you know it'll be utilized for that.
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be a madhouse of people utilizing that transportation system.
Well, and the city of Anaheim is seeing dollar signs, right? Because I'm assuming this gondola system ain't going to be free. I mean, there's going to be some kind of charge to ride this thing. So, I mean, to your point, Lucas, I mean, yeah, I mean, really, yeah. Can you imagine how many people will utilize this for an event like D23? I mean, I think that's part of the appeal for Anaheim to do it. You know, they want that. They want that as an option. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's gonna be pretty wild.
Really, but as far as, and we'll get into it as Brickey talks about, as far as Garden Walk goes, I think honestly it may seem like it's one of the lowest significant pieces of the puzzle, but I think it is one of the center core of what is going to lead up to the third gate for the Toy Story parking lot for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because it's the missing piece that will connect the main resort with Disneyland and DCA to the third park, which is Toy Story. It's that connector piece. So Disney's just waiting it out. Brick and mortar is dying. It's a melting ice cube. It's dying out. We've seen big retailers like Forever 21, Toys R Us go out of business. Sears. Brick and mortar is dying. It's not completely dead. It's still around, obviously. But I mean, is it really going to be, how relevant is brick and mortar going to be in 20 years, 30 years? Not that relevant, y'all. So, I mean, Disney and Anaheim, they know this. So that garden walk is dead shopping district walking, basically. It's not going to be here forever. And I think eventually Disney will snatch it up, but we'll see.
Knit together its two major entertainment zones into one seamless experience, with the gondola being the thread pulling the Eastern Platinum Triangle over to the Western Entertainment District. But that brings up a strange piece of the plan. Why does this route include Garden Walk, a property that's been struggling for years to find its identity? That's where I think all of this gets a little suspicious and maybe a clue for the future. This location is not even near the level of success as the other destinations, but is directly connected to possibly the biggest project on the horizon for the Disney Corporation inside of Anaheim. And it's already been approved.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, this is like really the point, and he's right. This is really the point. The city of Anaheim knows Disney has big plans for that Toy Story lot. So yeah, I mean, the city of Anaheim is not going to show their hand. They're not going to reveal Disney's plan for a third park, but they know internally that's the ultimate game plan. So this is basically setting up the infrastructure, putting the infrastructure in place. So when they eventually go forward with that third gate, they're going to hit the ground running. You know, it would be really kind of a mess if Disney, announces a third gate and they have to start all this infrastructure then and there. It would help a lot if the city already had things in place like gondola systems or people movers or whatever before Disney made that decision, before Disney starts to break ground. So this is absolutely a forward-thinking project, and it's a project that they're moving along with, despite the fact they know Garden Walk ain't going to be here in 20 years. So it's interesting.
Whenever the topic of new transportation in Anaheim comes up, the first thing fans dream about is bringing back the people mover. And I get it, the nostalgia is strong. I'd love to see it weaving through Tomorrowland again too, and all over Anaheim would be a dream. But I'm afraid a dream is all it is. But once you get outside of the park, it's just not realistic. The amount of land you'd need, the support structure, and the right-of-way issues, it would cost a fortune and create endless headaches before a single passenger ever were to step on board.
Now, see, this is where I respectfully disagree with Brickey, and I'm kind of curious your opinion on this though, too, George. Where like he mentions it would take up more space, but I don't know. I don't really see it that way in terms of like, I mean, you basically have the same kind of footprint, right? Like if you have a skyway, a gondola system, you have a bunch of towers, and that's the footing, right? And then you have the wire. With the people mover, you would have the pillars or the towers, and you would have the people mover track. I feel like it's kind of like the same amount of space on the ground. So I'm not really sure. Maybe I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, am I misinterpreting the situation here? Or
I'm trying to get like a mental image of like how both ride transportations would actually look like. Because yeah, you would have the pillars no matter what, and then you would have the cable wire that strings through the top, and then you would have the bucket seats above on the cable, and then of course you would have like the platform stations depending on the locations of where they're going to be, the destination of like where they're going for. But now when it comes to the people mover, you have that same track, but it's, I don't know, like I feel like it possibly could take more, and I think that's why Walt Disney World did a little bit more of the Skyliner, because so it wouldn't take up, because you would have to have, the pillars are just what holds up the cable, where I feel like with the people mover you're going to get an extra track.
well, no, you would, but on the ground though, it's the same amount of space though, no? Or I don't know.
Well, because if you have it on the ground, when you would then have to expand the roadways, right?
Well, I mean, like in terms of like the footings for the people mover would sit, I would assume like where the footings for the gondolas would sit, right? I mean, it would just be, right? I don't know. I could be wrong, but
I think honestly, well, here's the thing: you could kind of get away with it, but it's going to be kind of distended up much higher, and then that would still then speak to your argument of like, what if people are afraid of heights?
well, yeah. And here's the other thing too, and I just thought about this as well, where like the gondola system, like with the people mover, because it is a platform. Like I mean, I guess the case can be made where like you can't. There is a little bit of a restriction there. Like you can kind of hug, and we saw it with the schematics earlier on in this video with the CGI kind of gondolas going past the OC vibe, where these gondolas can kind of hug these buildings pretty close and what have you. I guess you couldn't do that with the people mover with the track. It'd be a lot harder to do that. So I guess that's a fair point. I don't know, but we'll see.
This is where the gondolas have an opportunity to shine. They're cheaper to build, need a fraction of ground space compared to a monorail or subway, and they can be installed much faster. Instead of tearing up streets or buying out entire blocks, you put up towers, string the cable, and you're moving people above the traffic below. I've ridden Walt Disney World Skyliners countless times. It's one of my favorite Walt Disney World attractions because I'm just that kind of fan. And honestly, one of the most efficient pieces of transportation Disney has ever built. Each cabin loads continuously, which means you don't get the same kind of bottlenecks you see with buses or trams. For perspective, the Skyliner can move an estimated 4,500 guests per hour. The gondola is by far the most realistic option for Anaheim compared to the cost and scale of building a monorail. Gondolas aren't just a wild idea.
And I agree with him about the monorail. And I know our friend Lucas Kim in the chat was saying monorail. In an ideal world, Lucas, 1,000%, I would want a monorail expansion. The problem with building a monorail expansion is that it's very costly, and I don't know. I feel like with the monorails, like I think it's even hard for Disney to even find manufacturers for a monorail nowadays, because I know that's been one of the biggest hurdles for Walt Disney World getting a new fleet. So that one's tough. I think the monorail is definitely the least likely, which is sad because I think it'd be pretty dope to see a monorail going through Anaheim. But I think if we see anything, it's going to be this gondola thing or like some sort of like people mover thing. Also, I don't know how many people watching are from the LA area, but the Getty Museum has sort of it's almost like a people mover / tram thing, where it's almost like a people mover tram on an elevated platform. I mean, that is a possibility too, I would imagine, but I don't know. We'll see. Well,
and also too, the price range of to extend out the monorail, like even just for with Walt Disney World, the problem that they were having even with their monorail system, that if they wanted to extend the monorail to further expansion into the resort, I mean, it takes a lot to even replace the track.
Right.
that it gets very pricey. So on top of that, with what you had just mentioned about like trying to find a manufacturer, I feel like that's going to be like the least likely transportation that they would go with. But I agree with you. I think it would be really cool because technically you already have the blueprint kind of like set out where it could literally go from, you know, one part of the area of Anaheim to the next.
Yeah, no, well said, well said.
They're the most practical choice on the table. But this leaves a bigger question. What does this mean for Disneyland, specifically for its future and the plans for Disneyland Forward, the park's biggest expansion in its history? The first big concern everyone has is safety. You hear gondola over the 5 and immediately imagine worst case scenarios.
Right.
I mean, I did.
Yeah, and see, this is why, and this is why I feel like this gondola system, there's a lot of pros to it. It's not my cup of tea, but I will acknowledge, I think there's a lot of pros to the gondola system. But I do think the optics of the gondola system, like Brickey's saying here, there's a fear factor to it. And that's going to prevent a lot of people from wanting to ride it. It could be the safest thing in the world on paper, but you're going to have people that are going to look at that thing and go, do I really want to sit in a steel box hanging over Harbor Boulevard? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't really matter almost how safe it is. If the optics are that this thing feels kind of, it's going to prevent people from riding it. And that is one element here that I feel is kind of a con for the gondola system, in my opinion.
But systems like this already exist. Portland has been running a tram across the 5 for nearly 2 decades without a single freeway-related accident. The ride technology is proven, and when designed right, it's incredibly reliable. The other concern I hear is comfort. Anaheim summers get hot, and nobody wants to be stuck in a swinging cabin. I've spent a lot of time on Disney World's Skyliner in Florida, where it's every bit as hot and humid. The cabins are vented. They move fast enough to keep air flowing continuously. And the views and vibes make the ride surprisingly enjoyable. When it stops for accessibility boarding, yeah, you feel the pause, but it picks right back up without much of a wait. Big crowds after a concert or a game would definitely create surges. Branch stations where multiple lines split off make that challenge even bigger, since they create bottlenecks. That's why many gondolas are designed with roll-through stations. The cabin slows down to let passengers on and off, then continue forward. With the right engineering, even a 90-degree corner is possible, which is how a system like this can snake its way through a city.
And that's one of the big selling points of the gondola system is that 90 degree turn. It can kind of hug these buildings a lot closer than like say a people mover and all that, like we just talked about. So there's a lot of pros on the table here for the gondola system. I mean, honestly, if I was a betting man and you were to ask me which one do I think is the most likely, it probably is going to be this gondola system. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. Is it my personal choice? No, I would, like I said, I would prefer a people mover or a monorail. But in terms of like, the cost and all that stuff, I think it's definitely the leading contender.
Anaheim's not looking to reinvent the wheel here. They're using technology that moves millions of people every year in cities and resorts all over the world. So yes, technically this could work. The engineering exists, the capacity is manageable, and Anaheim does have the space along Catella and Harbor to make it happen. But the bigger question, what surprised me about this news, is why is Anaheim the one studying this at all? Let me explain. Did the city just beat Disneyland to the idea, or is this something they've quietly been working on together? Because plans for a Disneyland Skyway were kind of dreamed up in the opening proposal for Disneyland Forward, which would probably go back to around the time that the city of Anaheim did their study, or shortly thereafter. See how I'm connecting the dots here? Disney first outlined Disneyland Forward. They They teased the idea that the Toy Story parking lot could become a shopping area with some entertainment, and that has led to a real split among fans. Some people take it at face value and believe the plan is simply more retail, but I do not buy it. Disney has a long history of keeping their future moves vague until they're ready to play their hand. And when you really look at it, a shopping plaza theory here across from all of this, it just doesn't add up. For one, Disney isn't about to build a mall that would directly compete with Anaheim's OC Vibe. And I think Anaheim knows this too. That's a fight neither side needs, and probably why the city is eager to connect all the pieces on the map is because they already know the real plan and what's coming next. And Disney definitely isn't going to.
And this is why anytime, someone does look at the original concept of like what Disney had an idea that it was going to be the West Coast of Disney Springs, like West Coast version and yada, yada. The city of Anaheim and the surrounding area of Disneyland already has dining and retail. They don't need Disney Springs. You put a Disney Springs in Walt Disney World because it's its own city. It's its own complex, where this is already a living, breathing, working environment of a city that has theme parks already in it. So you have the dining, you have the shopping, you have those kind of experiences. Why would you waste almost 75 acres of Disney-owned property that they don't have to buy, they don't have to lease, they have to do nothing, they own it, and it's already earmarked for future theme park development? Why would they waste it on a West Coast version of Disney Springs?
No, 100%, George, 100%. And like what you mentioned is 100% right. We're in the middle of Anaheim. You can go not even a mile away to Cheesecake Factory or these retail and dining stuff that exist all around Anaheim. Why would Disney use 75 acres to go ahead and be like, yeah, we're gonna add all kinds of retail? It makes no sense. And now it's competing, and Brickey talks about this, but now it's competing with the OC Vibe stuff. And I don't think Anaheim or Disney wants that. Now,
and honestly, it would make Disney competing with themselves. They're already investing how much money into downtown Disney. So it's like, what's the point of that?
Well, exactly. And then if you add a third park, now the OC Vibe complements that expansion. Because it's like you have your park, and then you have the entertainment district across the street or whatever. Where if you build a mall at Disney Springs, now you're competing with the OC Vibe, and neither the city and Disney, they don't want any of that. So yeah, this thing was never going to be a Disney Springs. I can tell you that right now. There's no way on God's green earth Disney is going to waste this amount of land in Anaheim. Disney will never get this much space in one spot in Anaheim ever again. Ever again. They are not going to blow that on retail.
That they don't have to fight for. Like, I feel like unless someone is willing to sell their land or Disney pays buku bucks for it but they actually own this land. It's theirs.
It's theirs, and it's already zoned for theme park space. And Disney gets more out of it financially for a theme park. You get more hotel stays. Then, that's big money right there. You know what I'm saying? It boosts the entire resort, because now with 3 parks, psychologically, when you have a family coming from Japan or something, they're thinking, 3 parks, I need to stay another day or two. This is a lot of stuff. You add a mall, it doesn't have that same psychological effect on the masses. It doesn't move the needle at all. You're not going to get more hotel stays because you open another mall. It's crazy. And brick and mortar is on the way out anyway. So it's not going to happen.
Create a space right across the street already exists where third-party retailers can open Disney adjacent shops at a fraction of the price. Now, let's do the math out loud. Do you really think Disney would guide their customers through someone else's mall just to get to their own? That part of this just doesn't add up.
Oh, thank you, Brickey. And he worded that perfectly. He really encapsulated everything that I've been thinking since they've announced this stuff. Is Disney really gonna are they really gonna have you go through someone else's mall to get to their mall? I mean, really, that makes zero sense. I mean, really, that for me right there, that was the death nail of the entire argument for when people say this is going to be a mall. It doesn't make any sense. And Disney isn't going to go. Disney's not going to build a mall right across from Garden Walk. There's just no way. It doesn't make any sense. Go ahead, George. I'm sorry.
And no, you're good. And Disney's not going to build a mall across from Garden Walk and also across of downtown Disney, which they already own.
And the OC Vibe.
And the OC Vibe. So it's like you already have 3 different dining and shopping districts. Why do you need a 4th? You're then, again, competing with yourself. And you're also drawing in more people that you're drawing away from your shopping mall because you're then making it go to the OC Vibe or what have you. It's like it doesn't. When you really look at it and you look at it from pen to paper, if you really say it out loud, it just doesn't make sense. Now, also too, I've heard from several people, of course, when we stayed at the timeshare, employees working there, saying that the bus route that picks guests up from the timeshares to the resort, starting next year, they are not going to have those buses running because of what was literally said to me was that Disney is going to start building a new hotel and a new theme park. Okay, well, that's not park expansion. I was told a brand new theme park. Where is that new theme park going to go? Chances are it's the Toy Story lot because those buses that pick people up from the timeshare, guess where they get dropped off? They get dropped off at the Toy Story parking lot.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing, and we've talked about this, but that's a great point. If that happened, if your conversation with the manager at Worldmark Resort, right? Uh-huh. If that conversation was the only piece of evidence we had, I'd be like, you know what? The guy at Worldmark could be wrong. He could be misinterpreting. Okay. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. When you have the manager at the Worldmark telling you that another park and another hotel is coming, when you have Anaheim leading the charge to have a gondola system through the city of Anaheim, because Anaheim knows, well, first of all, Brickey's right. Anaheim wants the success to be spread out through multiple Anaheim destinations, but they also want to alleviate congestion. Remember, when Disneyland Forward was announced, that was one of the big points of contention with the residents and the businesses was added congestion. This is a part of that. Disney played ball and played nice, and believe me, they want that. They want to make this as seamless as possible too, with less congestion, because that was the promise when they came in here for all the new zoning, that they would help in that and they would alleviate that congestion. So, yeah, we have way too much smoke here for there to be zero fire. Disney is actively looking and actively discussing with the city of Anaheim and internally about a third park. And honestly, I'm really kind of surprised it's happening as soon as right now. I mean, I always knew that Toy Story would eventually become a third park, but to see this much smoke for it right now really surprises me. I really thought we were maybe 20 years away. I'm not so sure anymore. Now, look, I'm not saying it's going to happen in 5 years, but I mean, I think it's going to happen sooner than people think, dude, because it seems like they're already moving the chessboard. Go ahead, George.
I really do. And this goes back to the early conversation before, like as the Brickey's video was playing, was I can understand the argument that they would want to continue on with Disneyland Forward by adding more into the Simba lot. I get it. But again, the Simba lot is earmarked for possible future expansion of DCA. Right. DCA is already getting 3 new projects between Marvel, Avatar, and Coco. I just don't know that right after that's done, Disney is going to want to then do a whole nother set of DCA plans, which they probably will in time.
Right.
But usually how Disney does is they like to use the revolving door, is what I call it. They'll do DCA, they'll go over to Disneyland, and so on and so forth. But I don't think that they're going to want to utilize the Simba parking lot right away, because once they fill up that space, DCA is completed, so to speak.
Right.
I mean, not done in the sense where they're, they could always change out things, but as far as expanding, it pretty much, that's where the bus starts and stops right there.
No pun intended, right?
No
Bus.
pun
And Ben Zacuto here says, he thinks it'll be a balance. They will balance it out with Disneyland, and I would agree that's what we're kind of saying here, Ben. Yeah, they're going to balance it out. I think obviously the next 5 years is very DCA heavy, which it should be. DCA needs more work than Disneyland. Let's just be honest. But when Pandora opens at the end of this 5-year plan, they will likely go over to Disneyland, or maybe, who knows? I mean, maybe we'll start to see some movement on the third park even more so. I don't really know, but they're definitely not. I know what they're definitely not going to do is they're definitely not, after Pandora, going to announce another $1 billion expansion for DCA for the next 5 years after that. It's very unlikely. Like George is saying, they usually pivot between the various parks, and they do it at Walt Disney World too, and very unlikely. So it's probably going to be Disneyland, or something else, but they're definitely not going to touch DCA after Pandora for a little while.
And then also too, look how they announced the Abu Dhabi park.
Right.
We got an announcement of a brand new Disney theme park that's going into the Middle East. Do we know absolutely anything about it right now? No. Nothing. Nothing is concrete of any details, any lands, how the structure of the park. We don't even know what they did confirm that it is going to be a castle park, but we really don't know in detail what the castle is going to look like. But yet we still know a park is coming. That's all that Disney needs to do. The second that they make the announcement, hey, there is going to be a third gate in the Disneyland resort, we may not get news on that for another 2 to 3 years down the road from the announcement. Right. So in the next after this 5 years, the next 5 years, in between that time, they can make an announcement that Disneyland's getting a third theme park, and it won't be another 6-7 years till we actually get concrete construction on it.
And yes, 100%. And to all the naysayers that'll tell me, oh, well, OG, third park, pie in the sky stuff, man, never going to happen, dude. You know what? A year ago, nobody would have thought they were going to build a park in Abu Dhabi. A decade ago, you wouldn't have thought they would have rethemed Splash Mountain either. So, you know what I'm saying? That's why when I hear people come at me with like, oh, this is like not realistic, it's just a third park, bro. And honestly, they have 75 acres, plenty of room to actually do this thing. And we're seeing them setting up this infrastructure, prepping for this exact kind of expansion. Remember, on a smaller scale, what did they do when they knew Galaxy's Edge was going into Disneyland? It was Operation Stardust. They started to widen walkways, remove curbs, and really set the park up to handle the crowds for Galaxy's Edge. They're doing essentially Operation or Project Stardust on a bigger scale now, resort-wide, Anaheim-wide, prepping for the inevitability of that third park. That's what we're seeing today. Now, Disney obviously hasn't announced anything because they keep their plans close to the chest, but
right.
You know what I'm saying?
So what does a theme park? The Toy Story lot already has theme park zoning approved under Disneyland Forward. That's a huge clue. And if history is any guide, Disney always keeps their biggest chess moves quiet until the timing is perfect. Just look at Garden Walk. Disney didn't make a move on it back when it was on the market. Instead, they're waiting until they're ready. And when they do, this piece can bring into play where everything will serve a much larger picture. It wasn't a deal if you bought it when you didn't need it. But yeah, you might pay more when you're finally ready for it, but you didn't have to hold on to it for multiple decades. When this behind me is all parking structure, the only thing standing between Disney's parking and their last development is Garden Walk. Make it make sense to not have this be part of Disney's.
And honestly, that makes a whole lot of sense. Even though that you would buy it cheaper, much earlier on, but it's going to cost the same amount if you would buy it later just to maintain it.
Right.
You would then have to keep up with something that's just sitting there. You have to maintain it. You have to take care of it. You're putting all that money out anyway. So you might as well just wait and then put out the money for it when you don't really need it, axe it off, demolish it, flatten it out, and then do your expansion to whatever you're going to use the garden walk area for.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And who knows? I mean, the price for garden walk might even go down by the time they need it, because OC Vibe might really be the death nail for this garden walk thing. Who knows? I don't know what's involved. The OC Vibe feels like it has potential, and I mean that might be the last thing that really does it in for garden walk, but we'll see.
Future plans. I would love to know your theory, because the only thing I can come up with is this is part of the plan.
Yep.
I agree, but not in the way that this billboard is suggesting. There's also practical ways around the obstacles. Yes, the lot is surrounded by hotels and even apartments, but that's not a deal breaker. In fact, many of these locations are probably holding on to their land to make a deal. Little Boy Blue.
Well, and actually, I'm going to rewind it, because actually he makes a great joke here about Little Boy Blue.
I do.
So,
I love that. I love that joke.
I'm not letting that slide, Brickey. That's a great joke, and we're going to let everyone hear it. It's amazing. No, but here's the thing too. In the Disneyland Forward proposal, we've heard that they're gonna, when it comes to the apartments and the homes, they're gonna have the show buildings on the outskirts. Remember that over there in the Symbol lot and all that? People were worried about the homes on that side. I think it's on Walnut and all that stuff. Well, yeah. I mean, Disney already said that they're gonna have the stuff facing the homes to be more indoor show buildings. So I would imagine with a Toy Story lot, it would be the same kind of idea. The entire park would be surrounded basically by show buildings, indoor stuff, and towards the center of it, you could have the more open air space, whatever. But there is design tricks you can kind of do here to prevent sound. Look, Universal right now is building a coaster, Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift, on a hillside with plenty of neighbors around. And they figured a way to do it that would mitigate the noise pollution and what have you, with sound walls and all that good stuff, right? Come on, these companies, we can figure ways around this stuff. And Disney's a very capable company. Having an apartment right there or something isn't a deal breaker for a third park at all. Especially the kind of attractions Disney builds, which are mostly indoor anyway. It's totally fine.
In fact, many of these locations are probably holding on to their land to make a deal. Little Boy Blue is soon going to go Little Boy Green.
Oh, yeah. I love it. I love it.
Just waiting for the day where they go, yep, we're ready to sell. The Disneyland land grab in Anaheim goes back to 1954. And warning, Riviera on the West Coast means something different than it does on the East Coast. Many of these components around the Toy Story parking lot are a slow auction. People purchase the land knowing exactly what they got into. Built modest hotels, apartments, housing, just sort of riding it out to the day. The Bobs rolled up with that blank check. I mean, come on, they knew what they were getting into. Disney has created clever buffers before.
Yes.
By designing the park from the outside inward, those edges can be turned into a feature rather than a flaw. I hope you like dark rides, because this park will have a lot of them. Now, none of this is happening tomorrow, but in the long-term pattern of how Disney expands, the Toy Story lot makes the most sense as a park than as extra retail space, especially with retail being on the decline now in 2025.
Yes.
What will brick and mortar retail look like in 35, 45, or even 55? Which means...
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And we've talked about that throughout this video. He's absolutely correct on that. I mean, you can only build so many Disney themed bars. I mean, what, are you going to fill 75 acres with a bunch of Disney bars? I mean, a mall isn't really feasible. And like he said in the video, you're competing with Garden Walk, you're competing with OC Vibe. Who wants to deal with that? You know, you put a park here and you expand your hotel occupancy, you increase tourism. I mean, it moves the needle in so many ways a mall could never move it. You know what I'm saying?
And then there's also the argument that they could say, well, Disney could just build more resort hotels, part of the Disneyland resort. But what good is that when you're building, like, for 75 acres? I mean, you could probably get like 5 to 6 resort hotels on top of the 3 they already have. That's like 9 hotels for what? For the same 2. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Disneyland. Disneyland's the GOAT. But do you really need 9 Disney resort hotels just for 2 theme parks?
Well, yeah. I mean, even if let's just say they just build one. Let's just say they build a Disney Springs West on this land, and they build 1 new hotel. Even that is overkill because you have 2 parks now and 4 Disney hotels. Do you need even 4 Disney hotels for 2 parks? No.
And not to mention that, again, you have all the hotels on Harbor and Catella that people would stay in anyway. And if Disney ever does end up buying out some hotels, so they're going to knock hotels down to build their own hotels, which you can get at a much decent price. And now people are forced to pay more money for just 2 theme parks. People aren't going to bite at that at all.
No, you have to give people a reason to justify a 4th hotel. And I'm sorry, a mall ain't going to do that. Now, a new park might. A new park, like I said before, psychologically says there's a lot to do here. I mean, and there will be a lot more to do with the 3rd park. And it is much more of a Walt Disney World. And I'm using air quotes because nothing will be Walt Disney World. But it is much more of a Walt Disney World kind of destination where you need some time there to finish everything. But a mall doesn't do that. The family from Australia doesn't give a shit about a new mall. They're not going to book another day at Disneyland because there's a new mall. You know what I'm saying? They got their own malls, you know?
Means, despite what the official language might say, Toy Story Lot is an expansion site, waiting for its moment, not for a shopping mall. And here is where I see things getting very interesting. Anaheim is already floating the idea of funding infrastructure that was a part of the original Disneyland Forward proposal. So which came first, the chicken or the egg? So why would the city be jumping ahead on something Disney once hinted they'd eventually build themselves as part of Disneyland Forward? It's hard not to notice how neatly all of this lines up. Anaheim saw what Disney put on the table with Disneyland Forward, and instead of competing, they decided to complement it. That is a sign of a strong relationship between the park and the city. And probably
well said, Brickey. Well said. I love this video. This is seriously one of my favorite Brickey videos. And I have a lot of favorite Brickey videos, but this is honestly one of my favorites because he hits the nail on the head so many times. You know, the city of Anaheim and Disney are working very close together with this gondola thing. This is not, believe me, Disney wants this badly too. They are setting up the whole area to be much more of a resort with a 3rd gate and the whole thing. When we go back to those early days when Disney and was trying to work with the city in regards to Disneyland Forward, one of the biggest problems, like I said, was the congestion around the resort. A lot of businesses, a lot of residents were complaining about that stuff. So it seems like Disney and Anaheim right now are figuring out ways to relieve that congestion and kind of set Anaheim up for the eventuality of that 3rd park. They want to get all the pieces in place before that 3rd park comes in. I think it's a smart move.
All based on lessons learned through the year without Disneyland. After the pandemic, Anaheim learned the hard way just how much it needs Disney and its customers. That's what OC Vibe really is. The city of Anaheim planned on creating its own entertainment hub while leaving Disney to focus on what it does best, hotels and theme parks. The resort district isn't just an attraction, it's the economic engine that keeps the whole city running. So a symbiotic play makes sense. Anaheim gets its version of Disney Springs on the West Coast, and Disney keeps control of its parks and hotels. And the gondola, it quickly becomes the thread stitching all of Anaheim together. When you put it that way, it feels a whole lot less like two separate projects and more like two sides of the same strategy. Anaheim benefits when Disney grows, and Disney benefits when Anaheim builds the infrastructure to support that growth. And here is where it starts to feel more like than just a transit study. What if the gondola is the first big moving piece to Anaheim's future, where all parts are connected? This is where my excitement came in, because I had to wonder, is Anaheim moving first because they already know what's coming next? Because the city understands that the faster Disney grows, the faster the community grows with it. And the best way to make OC Vibe a massive success is to literally attach it to one of the most powerful names in destination entertainment. A gondola linking it all together would create one of the most connected entertainment districts in the entire country. No car required. It probably won't be ready in 2028, but the direction is clear. Anaheim is setting itself up for a future where the entire city functions as one destination. And if this is Anaheim's next big move, then the real question is, what is Disney's? To see how Disneyland could answer back with its own expansion, watch my video on the Eastern Gateway project.
Okay, so big shout out to Hey Brickey, friend of the channel. Everybody at home, if you are not subscribed to this man, do yourself a huge favor. In the description, I have his main channel, and he's also got the Brickey vlog. Subscribe to both, because this guy makes phenomenal content. I mean, we not only is he a friend, but I mean his content is incredible, and that's why we react to his stuff so much, because it really does get the nerdy juices flowing in our brains. But look, all this stuff to kind of put a nice little bow on it is not a coincidence. The Disneyland forward approval, now suddenly Anaheim wants to build a gondola system connecting all this stuff. You know, it's not coincidental, y'all. They are setting the groundwork up for an eventual third gate expansion. It's on the way. And like I said before, we're not looking at this happening like next year, nothing like that. But, you know, 10, 15 years maybe? Yeah, absolutely. But George, before we get to some viewer comments, any thoughts on the Brickey video before we...
Yeah, again, like Brickey just knocks it out of the ballpark every single time. Like, I mean, his content is superb, and also his articulate wording of how he puts things. Like, we can think of something, but the way that he puts it, it just brings it into so much more better perspective that it's like, okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense. Like, why wouldn't Disney go this route, or why wouldn't the city of Anaheim agree to that? You know, it's just how he handles of putting out the message of, like, in his videos. Every time he always delivers. So big shout out to Brickey, and that's why we love doing video reactions of his.
Yeah, hey, Brickey's not pregnant, but he always delivers. You know what I'm saying? Every single time. Every single time. Shane Narani here says, do you think Garden Walk will become a resort area? Actually, I kind of think it might be what, like, Roto Kamish is saying, where I can see Garden Walk being a transportation hub sort of thing. Like, it's going to be, I think it's going to be kind of like that connector, that gateway from the main resort to this third gate. So maybe there'll be like trams in there or something. Maybe you put a few shops or restaurants in there too, kind of line it, you know. But I do think the main purpose of that Garden Walk land, when Disney does eventually grab it, will be some sort of pedestrian transportation sort of hub. But what say you, George? What do you think, brother?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like they're leaning more towards, you know, finding like a core center, like, of how everything could kind of interconnect. And honestly, I feel like, yeah, I agree with Roto Kamish. I feel like Garden Walk is going to be kind of like that centerpiece, so to speak, because they can really take where the location of Garden Walk is and literally interconnect it like a spider web to all the other, to the Disneyland Resort, to the Anaheim Angel Stadium, the Honda Center, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, well, so Mike Skellington here says, why not a people mover? Hey, well, I agree with you. Why not? You know, I hope Anaheim is considering a people mover kind of system. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, the reality of this is that every every system they choose is going to have pros and they're going to have cons, right? The gondola system has a lot of pros from a business perspective, but it also has some cons. You know, Mike, I don't know when you started tuning in, but one of the cons, I think personally, of a gondola system is the optics. A lot of people don't necessarily want to get in a steel box and dangle over Harbor Boulevard. There are people that are going to look at that and go, I'm not getting in that thing. You know what I'm saying? You know, so that is a barrier to entry in terms of getting as many people in those things as possible. You know, a people mover won't have that same kind of stigma. It's a little bit more of an everybody sort of mode of transportation, you know, so, but there's pros and cons to everything. A people mover will likely be more expensive though, Mike, because you're dealing with a lot more cement and everything for the, you know, the pillars and the platform. I mean, the people mover will probably cost them more money than a gondola system. So each system is going to have its goods and bads basically, but we'll see. Now, in an ideal world, Mike, I wish it was a people mover. I would prefer that, or the monorail, but those two forms of transportation are going to be much more expensive, unfortunately. And it's when you're working with the city and all that, they're going to look for probably the most cost effective. So,
yeah. And I feel like aside from like the Skyliner, I feel like out of all the transportations, it's less clunky, so to speak. That's like the word I'm going to use. Like everything else is going to take a lot more materials, you know, and you know, and I'm not saying this to get in a political standpoint, but just like not knowing even like how much materials are going to be in the next 5, 10, 15 years, you know, it's going to add up. So they may have to set like a budget plan of like how much do they really want to spend and how much it's really going to cost depending on which mode of transportation they end up going.
yeah, absolutely. But I love this stuff. I love what Brickey brings to the table, what Brickey brings to the community. I love getting these conversations kind of started with the community and talking, you know, to our audience and kind of bouncing ideas off. And it's really cool because this is like, for me personally, like the most fun part of being a park fan is like the speculating, where
nerding out.
Yeah, nerding out. It's like, for me, it's like super fun, you know? So I think that the Disneyland Resort has a really bright future. I love the fact that Disney and Anaheim are working closer together than they ever have. I'll tell you right now, I'll make a bold comment. If Disneyland Resort were to pitch Westcott today, there is probably more of a likelihood of Westcott getting approved today than there was in the mid to late 90s. It's a different situation politically in Anaheim than it was. Like Brickey said in his video, the Pandy changed everything. When the city of Anaheim saw just how much they rely on Disney, they were like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, so it really is the meat and potatoes, but this is how it should be. I mean, Disneyland is the driving force, but it can feed a lot of this other stuff around the way, like with OC Vibe and stuff. If they work together, it's golden, baby. You know what I'm saying? So,
and I'm going to make a bold prediction on my own. I feel that Disneyland's third gate is going to get announced, not completed, not start on construction, announced before they start adding anything into the Simba lot.
That is bold. That is bold. And you might not be too far off. Like I said, fans, do not dismiss stuff. Like I said before, no one knew Abu Dhabi was coming. You know, no one thought Splash Mountain would get rethemed. No one ever thought the Rivers of America would be drained and replaced with Cars Land. Okay, like, so don't poo-poo the idea of a third park. I mean, it's not too far-fetched, you know what I'm saying? And it definitely moved the needle for Anaheim and Disney in terms of, like, you know, money coming into the city and hotel stays and all that good stuff. Now, Petey here is asking, and it's good to see you, Petey. Appreciate you as always. What kind of park would this third gate be, George? What do you think? Like, realistically, we joke around about Westcott, but let's be honest, it's probably not going to happen.
I tell you one thing: if it is Westcott, Disney does watch the channels for sure.
Oh yeah, which would be hilarious if it was Westcott, because then the accusations of us having special access would be even worse.
Would be even worse. Oh God, it would go into talk about turbo drive.
Tell you, man.
But realistically, for a third gate, see, and I feel like that Disney is going down the beaten path where they're not just like taking one specific idea and then forming a park around it. I feel like that they usually are going down the route where they just get all the popular IPs and they just kind of like throw it into the park and like make a story around that. Sort of like what they're doing with the expansion of Magic Kingdom, like how they're infusing the Cars area into the new frontier and how it connects to the Bayou. You know, we would never think that, but they kind of create their own storyline. All we see is Cars, Tiana, and Country Bears. You know, but they'll come up with like a storyline. So I feel like I think they're going to come up with a type of a storyline that we won't understand unless Disney describes it in detail, and it's just going to be a whole bunch of popular IP.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. It'll probably be like an Epic Universe style Disney park, right? Now, honestly, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Westcott would be a great addition to the Anaheim area because we have a huge locals fan base out here, and the locals would literally go nuts for a drink around the world or drink around the continents kind of park. And you can even have your IP in a Westcott. You know, I mean, you can have. I mean, Disney has a lot of cultural IP. You have Mulan and Big Hero 6 and Raya the Last Dragon that you can put in Asia. You know, we have a ton of fairy tales that you can put in, you know, Europe. I mean, I mean, even if you have Australia, you can do a Rescuers Down Under. I mean, I'm just getting, you know, spitballing here, but you can still put IP in Westcott. They're adding IP right now to Epcot. So, I mean, Westcott is the way I would go, but I think, George, your idea or your speculation is more likely. It'll probably be a version of Epic Universe where it has multiple IP lands, and that's what it'll definitely kind of go for. Kind of like, you know what, kind of like Shanghai Disneyland, how they kind of have like Zootopia, and you know what I'm saying, like that. So
yeah, that's what I think they're going to end up doing, and I think that's just the route that Disney's going to go, because I mean they're going to look at these IP and they're going to say like, yeah, it's like a cash grab. Like if it's popular in theaters and it's popular on the streaming service, hey, it's going to be popular in the park. So let's, you know, go that route. But I don't know if you could bring up and please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, Kalani Double they say if they put a people mover in Disneyland, please make it wheelchair accessible. Disney World version is not. Now that actually, I wanted to bring that up because that is actually vital as well. Not even just if they were to bring a people mover back into Disneyland, but any kind of mode of transportation, they're going to have to figure out, because especially if they're going to have people kind of going like moving like a turnstile with these transportations, they're going to have to figure out a way also for handicap accessible as well, because you're then not even just looking at park guests, you're looking at just people, whoever that are just visiting the city of Anaheim, if they want to go over to Angel Stadium, if they want to go to the Honda Center. So they definitely have to comply with the accessibility transportation as well.
No, absolutely. Everyone needs to be able to access this transportation 100%. Now, I do want to touch upon what our good friend Kev, and Kev, it's always a pleasure having you join us. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. But Kev here says Anaheim tourists stuck in the sky for 4 hours. And that's what I was saying. That's the kind of stuff that's going to deter people from riding this thing. Do I want to get in this thing and have a breakdown? Do I want to dangle over Harbor Boulevard? Like, I get it. It's safe, but you know, it's not everyone's cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely a downside to gondolas, whereas as a people mover doesn't have that problem. So,
now, can I also bring this up? This may be, I'm trying to think like how this could, again, not saying that nothing is going to happen, but I'm just saying like with the Skyliner in the state of Florida, they get storms, you know, they have things and the Skyliner shuts down. Now, in the unlikely event, because we're in the state of California,
right?
If there would happen to be an unexpected, just to say, mini quake, and these things are in motion. Now, again, I've never experienced an earthquake. I don't know all the logistics behind it, but as far as safety protocol goes, And again, you can't prepare when an earthquake is going to happen because it's going to happen just like that. Is a skyline type of transportation good in the state of California in that manner?
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I know Disneyland had the skyway buckets for many, many years, right? I don't remember ever hearing of an issue with earthquakes, but that's a great point. Would you even want, even if it's safe though, would you want to be in the gondola bucket with that thing like this in an earthquake? Like that would be pretty terrifying. And you don't get, look, we do get alerts on our phone like 30 seconds prior to like a 5.0 or bigger. You only got 30 seconds. That's not enough to evacuate and get people off these things. So you would be in that thing, you know, during a quake. So that's a huge factor. Yeah, it's a great point, George. We live in earthquake country, you know? I mean, the wind, I know a gentleman mentioned the wind with the Santa Ana winds and all that. I mean, that's a factor, but Florida, if they can handle it with the winds, I think the wind will be fine. But earthquakes, I don't know. That's a tough, because earthquakes come out of nowhere. You just don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. So, but before we get out of here, George, I want to go ahead and share a little bit here before we go. I got our good friend Jared over here at Capture the Magic. If you go to ctmapparelco.com, link down below, you can get a really cool nerdy shirt like this Peaches one, which is one of my favorites. If you use promo code OG55, you'll get, I think, 15%. So definitely check it out. He's got a lot of great park shirts, a lot of nerdy stuff. The shirts fit really good, so check that out. I also do want to also plug our friend of the channel, Miss Mimi Fan. She does a lot of great content on Instagram and on YouTube. If you're in the OC or LA area and you're looking for something better than theme park food, she is your gal. She does a lot of great coverage on like K barbecue stuff and Japanese restaurants, boba, all that good stuff. So Mimi Fan, you can find her in the description below. And actually, I love at the very end with the air chopsticks. That's classic Mimi right there. Classic Mimi. But anyway, go check her out down in the description down below, and she will get you hooked up with all these great places in the LA and OC area. This one that she's reviewing right now is actually in Buena Park, very close to Disneyland. But Mr. George the Italian. Oh, wait, before. Yeah, Brickey. Yes, that is the one, the only Miss Mimi Fan. But George, I want to thank you for joining on OG55, and I want to thank everybody watching Citrico Central for joining. This is a multi-channel stream, so pretty cool. But
welcome to the Italianoverse. That's what I'm calling.
There we go. It's all connected. It's like the MCU. It's like the OG verse and the Italianoverse. You know what I'm saying? It's like we have our separate things and we come.
No, finish. Get finished.
Oh, I was gonna say we have our separate things, but then we come together like the Avengers. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But here's the best part of it, folks. Our storylines, other than Marvel right now, actually make sense.
Oh, shots fired. Shots fired. Mr. Italiano, for those watching on OG55, where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can also find me actually on OG55, where we do all these kind of discussions and what have you. And also, again, you can find me on my own YouTube channel, Citrico Central, where basically we cover all the breaking news stuff, just like on OG55, and also where I am boots on the ground at Disneyland, at Universal, also even in traveling, where Walt Disney World, Universal Orlando, also the Disney Cruise Line, we cover all that good stuff. So definitely hop over to Citrico Central and check it out.
There he is, Citrico Central here on YouTube. Mark is in the house, by the way. Hey, friends, we are moving tonight, but just wanted to pop in and say hi. Hey, Mark, it's always good to see you, brother.
Yeah, good to see you, man.
Yeah, he's great. I love Mark. I don't know if you're still in the chat, but I love your content on Instagram. Really, really, really good stuff. Everyone should check him out on Instagram. Cool little short form content Mark does, really cool. But Mark, thank you so much for hopping in and saying hi.
Do you know what I absolutely love with him and Lene? I love when the two of them are in the chat together, because I love this kind of like fun kind of banter that they do, like this back and forth kind of thing. It's just it's awesome. It livens up the chat and everything, and it's always a good time to see them. And also, Mark, if you're still in the chat, I know you're probably busy, but again, happy belated birthday to you. So, and many happy more.
Yeah, 100%. Happy birthday, Mark. Appreciate you, brother. And I want to thank everybody who joined us today. We got Brandon, Giant Peter.
Sorry. I had to. Can you bring up Peter's thing? That the boy, ICU, Italiano Cinematic.
Oh man. Well, that yeah. Well, hopefully, George, you don't ever see an ICU because I want you healthy, brother. I want you healthy. And so, but I want to thank Peter. I want to thank Mark. I want to thank Ben. I want to thank our friend Kaylee with 2 E's. I want to thank Abby. I want to thank Mimi Fan. I want to thank Jared from Capture the Magic. Kev, Mr. Tech Bear, Brandon Smith, Mike Skellington, Roto Kamish. I want to thank everybody. I want everybody to have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you for watching OG55. Thank you for watching Citrico Central. And until the next time, see you later.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and become a member today.